Welcome to Mind Your Time, presented by KLM Consulting and Hammersmith Support. I'm Kelly Lorenzen, and I own KLM Consulting. We're a business development firm here in Phoenix, and Heather Locke with Hammersmith Support asked me to put on an event with her for our clients because we love doing things together, and we love offering tons of free tips and tools that business owners and others in the community can use. So we're always looking for ways to give back to our community as well. So this was something we thought of and asked Carla, can you please help us with some tips for the beginning of the year? So we're excited to have her today. So thank you all for joining us. I will continue to let people in as they arrive. In the meantime, we'll get started. Heather, can you tell us a little bit about you and your business, and then I'll have you introduce Carla.
Absolutely. I think I know most everyone on, but it's so nice to see you guys. So Hammersmith Support, for those of you who don't know, is a web development agency. We focus on WordPress. Design, development, hosting, and maintenance. And kind of like Kelly said, one of our core values is giving back and finding ways to do things for our clients. And so we wanted to host this event. I have been working with Carla on a personal level for about a year, and she has just been so invaluable to me. When I describe what it's like to work with her, I tell my husband it's like going on vacation and being able to see things more clearly and think of things kind of outside yourself, as if you've gotten away from your environment. So she brings out these good thoughts in me and really helps me kind of progress and move my life forward. And she's just been a really important tool in my toolbox, I would say. And so she has a lot of wisdom to share. And so I'm very excited to introduce Carla Reeves. She's our life coach, and she is going to be presenting on time.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Heather, and thank you, Kelly. I'm so honored to be here and to share about time, especially as we start the beginning of the year. And thank you for giving us your precious time today. I don't take that lightly, and I just intend that this be really valuable for you. And before we start, I just want to, if you have a piece of paper or a notebook or something handy, you might want to write a few things down as we go along. And we're just going to start by, it's an exercise by Brendon Burchard in his book, The High Performance Habits. And he has this idea that we as human beings, we don't really manage our transitions throughout our day. So if you think of a transition like when you get up in the morning to starting work, and then starting work to saying, going into a meeting, and then maybe whatever you were doing before this, and then coming into this moment. And he says that there's an opportunity to manage those transitions much better in a way that really helps us to really make the most of our energy and our time. So I'm going to walk you through that exercise now. And so if you feel comfortable, just close your eyes and just take a couple breaths. Repeat the word release in your mind over and over. Release, release. We're just letting go of whatever it was you were doing before now. And as you do, command your body to release all the tension in your shoulders, in your neck, in your jaw. Release the tension in your back and in your legs, in your feet, in your toes. Release the tension in your mind. Everything that's on your list will wait. Breathe deeply and repeat the word release. Now I want you to set an intention. Think about what you want to feel and achieve in this new moment, this new experience. ask yourself, what energy do I want to bring to this? How can I participate with my full presence? How can I be more engaged? How can I maximize this experience? Take one more deep breath. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and maybe just jot down that intention. So I spent years of my life checking the boxes of what I thought would make up a happy, successful life, crossing off lots of to-do lists and hoping that if I just got it all right, and if I just got enough of them checked off, that I was gonna have this illusion that I was gonna arrive at this happy, successful life. And I truly was a master at making everything on the outside look good, really good at pleasing everybody else and taking care of everybody else and dropping everything for everybody else while my things sort of fell to the bottom of the list. And I often say I was a recovering workaholic. I still love to work, but there was like this workaholic engine that really ran me for a lot of years. And a series of events occurred in my life that sort of left me at a real pivot point in a place I never imagined. And I was finally willing to admit to myself that while everything really looked good and I checked a lot of boxes, I was empty inside. And I knew in my heart that there had to be another way. And I really made it my mission to figure that out. And so I was well into this mission and really making some big changes in my life. And about, I think it was like 8 or 10 years ago, I was working with a coach and we were working through some different things. And I had told him that I was out to create an extraordinary marriage. I had told him that at some point in our work together. And we got to this piece of the program and he started talking about time. And he said, I want you to think about time like money that you would deposit into a bank. So like the different areas of your life or the different accounts. And every time you spend time in one, you're making a deposit into that account of your life. And so over the next 2 weeks, he asked me to do some serious time tracking. And I wrote down, kind of just over the days, like where I was spending my time and how much. And I came back to that next session and I was really astounded by what I had found, because here I was declaring that I was out to create an extraordinary marriage. And when it came to the time tracking, all of my time investment was going into my work and into my kids and into my home. And my marriage was literally getting the breadcrumbs of my time at best. And I am somebody who I really value integrity and I value, my word and what I say. And this was just like a huge blind spot because my intentions were all in the right place. But when it came to sort of the checkbook of my time, it didn't add up at all. And so that was another huge pivot point in my life where I started doing things really different when it came to time, because I in my heart, I had to bring this back into alignment. And I made some really significant changes. And today what I want to walk you through is some of the thinking barriers and sort of myths that were keeping me stuck and that I see keeping clients stuck over and over and over again. The insights that really helped me break through that and give you an opportunity to look into your own life at what those might be for you. So I forgot to turn all my slides, but this was me in the exhaustion of checking all those boxes. So over the last decade of coaching hundreds of people, I have really realized that people are far closer to what they really, really want. And it's often just a way of thinking that is literally the only thing in the way of where they are and what they want. And so this idea that a deep change in the way that you spend your time requires a deep change in the way that you think is so profound to me. And it's really different than, I don't know if you came here thinking you're going to get time strategies, But for me, the time strategies are great, but they have to be applied onto a really solid thinking foundation first. And so that's what we're going to talk a little bit about. So my mission is really to show you, while there are so many things you can't control when it comes to your time, to really show you where you can have more power and more control. Because what I see so often and what I felt in my own life is this feeling of powerlessness and sort of like a victim or at the mercy of time. And so I hope that some of these will give you some freedom around that. So we're going to look at some of the thinking myths that get in the way. So the first one is this idea that I need to get more done and then I'm going to feel better. Anybody like pop in the chat, and even though, oh, maybe I can see it now, Kelly. No, I can't. But maybe pop in the chat, like, can you relate? Just give us a sense of, can you relate to this? Kelly, you can tell me.
I can so relate, they said. Lindsay says.
Oh, let's see. Okay, good. I can see chat now.
Oh, good.
So yeah, it's this sort of sneaky illusion that it keeps you on the hamster wheel, but with a lot of hope, because you know that if you just get enough done, you're going to reach that better place. And for me, it just kept me on that hamster wheel of always doing more and more and more. And I think the perceived solution is getting more strategies or getting faster, getting more efficient. But what I've found is that the truth is, okay, so now my little screen has stopped working. Kelly, any ideas? I'm not able to, oh, there we go. It's working now. So the truth is that when you feel better, you get more done. Can anybody relate to that? That actually when you feel better first is when you get more done. Like when you're feeling great, you can get things done faster, more effective, your quality goes up, and on and on and on. And that true change really occurs when your well-being becomes a priority on that to-do list. And then it is absolutely possible that you can be both productive and fulfilled, but it requires us really making a huge shift here. And so I want you to start to think about your thoughts over and over and over again, create this shade or this lens from which you operate. And in order to create a significant shift in that, you have to change the way that you're thinking about time. And so for all of us, there's a story that we tell about time, a narrative that's kind of always running in the backdrop. And I want you to start kind of tuning in to what that is for you. One of the best pieces of advice I ever received was, don't believe everything you think, because for me, my thinking was just running me and running me ragged. And so this idea of I didn't have to believe everything I thought really gave me permission to start to step back from my thinking and start to really look at it and examine it and even challenge it. And that made a huge, huge difference. So I want you to think for a moment, what is the story that you tell yourself about time? And you may even find yourself speaking it out loud, but I want you to think about that for a minute and just take a couple notes and write that down. And if you want to drop it into the chat, that's great too. And Kelly, I'm going to let you read that because I think it goofs up my slide advancing.
Never enough time.
Never enough.
And if I get up earlier, somebody said.
Yeah, for me, it was like, there's never enough. I'll never get it all done. I got to hurry.
I think I have more than I actually do.
Yes, I can totally relate to that. I think I can get more things done than I actually can in a chunk of time. And then I never really feel the success of achievement. And I hear that a lot from clients.
Another one, it's the game of cat and mouse. I'm always chasing the clock.
Always chasing the clock. Yeah. Powerless again. And if you look around, we can find so much evidence that, this is what everybody's experiencing. So it's easy to kind of settle in and get resigned, like this is just the way it is. And so I just have to deal with it. And I want to really invite you to even challenge that thought, because I know from my own experience that you can totally shift the relationship you have with time. And that's really what we're talking about, is changing the relationship, because we can't control time. It's a fixed amount, but we can shift our relationship to it and the way we think about it and the way we show up to it. Any others, Kelly?
Sorry, cut where I need to and be okay with that.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, and we're going to get to that part. So creating a change with your time requires you to look at the narrative that you're telling about time. And if you simply were to shift the narrative and the story you're telling about time and start to notice and change the way you speak about time, just that alone will have an impact. And I know for myself, like I used to always use the word busy, like I'm busy, and you hear people say that all the time. Kelly, I saw you smile. But just cutting out that language, like I don't say I'm busy anymore. I say my schedule's full or my day is full, but it feels different. Because for me, whenever I would talk about busy, it would just create this internal energy that would just run through my day and sort of leave me exhausted. So awesome. Okay, so myth number 2, if we just add the right strategy, then we're going to get ahead. And I think, again, the perceived solution is get better, get faster, do more, and then things will be better. And again, it's sort of pushing what we ultimately want out in the distance, and keeps us doing more. And so what I want to keep inviting you to think about is, how can you do different instead of more? And so what I have found the truth to really be is that it's not about adding anything, and that it's really about taking away or removing things that are robbing you of your time. And so for me, for a lot of years, I would think of like time wasters more like interruptions, or maybe like binge watching Netflix or something like that. But what I want you to look at is, these are different, and these are sometimes they can occur like blind spots, but they're things like pleasing other people over and over and over again to the point of your own exhaustion, or they're taking everything on. Like you might be someone who you just feel the need to take everything on and help others to the point of your own detriment. It can show up like over delivering, or overextending yourself, or always overworking, or extending your hours on and on and on, to the point that it makes you exhausted, or your things are dropping to the bottom. Other indicators can be this feeling of obligation. And often you end up feeling a little resentful or angry about how you're spending your time. So over a lot of years of coaching, I started noticing something I call your survival model. And this is where these time robbers really live. And they're things that actually helped us to survive at one time, but they're the very thing that's in your way today. And they can show up in just those ways that I'm describing, and even other ways. So I'd love to hear in the chat, are you aware of any time robbers that you have? And let's share them, because I think, one, it just helps to just give them light and air. And I think when you share, you're going to help other people kind of see their own. And And I had all of these, for the record, at one time. So no shame.
Can you give us an example?
Yeah. So like the people pleasing, or the taking everything on, overcommitting yourself, doing everybody else's, like maybe like taking on things that aren't yours to take on, but you feel an obligation. It can even be like overthinking.
So keeping my email inbox open on my phone, or keeping my email inbox open and on my phone. Somebody else says being an event planner in my family, people pleasing, the control piece of it, the need to know it's done my way. That's in there. Great. Those are all good. Bad, but good.
Yeah, no, those are definitely good ones. And the control piece is something I see show up a lot, is I think especially for women, is this need to kind of have our hands in lots of different things that maybe we don't have to control. And I think we spend a lot of time and energy in domains that aren't really ours. Even I used to do this, is like thinking for others, and even like trying to manage other people's lives or happiness. I was certainly guilty of that. But if you want to harness more time in your life, this is a really important place to look, because a lot of times this is what's robbing your emotional and mental energy and your time. And if you can start to address some of these, you're going to have so much more freedom and power over your time. And it's going to be easier to guard your time. Just an example of this, a client I worked with years ago, she came in wanting support around really feeling her value. And she said, I know intellectually that I'm valuable, but I want to feel it in my bones. And one of the things that was really bothering her was that she didn't feel like she was getting paid what she was worth. And she would, talking about the time robbers, some of the ones that were showing up in her life were like staying late all the time, over delivering, extending herself to the point of her own exhaustion, and kind of letting her own priorities fall to the bottom. She was constantly trying to prove her value. And I asked her one day, I said, what would have to happen, from your boss in order for you to really feel your value, like once and for all? And she just got completely quiet. And she's like, there's nothing. And she realized in that moment that all of this hard work and overgiving and overextending was really pointless, because there was nothing that could happen that would really prove that to her. And that was a real pivot moment for her to start doing differently with her time and starting to guard that. And I think for a lot of people, it can feel scary to make some of those changes. Because I think she thought she might lose her edge. But what I've seen over and over and over again is that people actually elevate their leadership. They elevate their edge when they start to take real, true responsibility for their time and really start to guard that. Let's see. Okay. And one of the ways that you can start to reveal some of this is through that time tracking, really starting to jot down not only where you're spending your time, like your physical time, but your thinking time too. So, all right, we covered that. So we did that too. We talked about what's robbing your precious time. So lastly, the last thinking myth is, when I get ahead, then I'll have time for what matters. And I think this one is so near and dear to my heart. And I'll share a story that kind of explains that. I was working with someone, she was a vice president of HR, and she said to me, she said, I just need to get to retirement, and then my life will be better. And how many of you, and let's just pop in the chat, can relate to the idea of like, things will get better and I'll have more time when, and let's pop in the chat, like when the kids get older, when I lose weight, when I make more money. It's this, I call it the someday illusion. Can anyone relate to that?
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I think there has to be like a something in your life that happens, something maybe tragic, or at least it was for me to go, oh wait, life's too short. I can't wait until that time, you know.
Yeah.
Other people are saying COVID has helped teach me many lessons for changing priorities. So that's definitely helped a lot of us, I'm sure, to slow down. Somebody else says, when my kids can go back to school in person.
Yes, that's super relevant.
When I finish a current project.
Yeah. Kelly, I just realized I can't see time. So if you can give me a time warning too, if we get close, but I think we're doing good.
We're good.
So yeah, if there's one thing I'm passionate about, it's that this life is temporary and our time is so precious. And I think we all know that intellectually, but we often live like it's like we have endless time. And so with this woman, what was the friction for her was that, yes, she wanted to just wait till she got to retirement, but her elderly mom, she wasn't spending the time she wanted to spend with her. She had a teenage son that she wasn't dedicating the time she wanted to, and she had a new relationship, a fiance, and that was, she wasn't getting the time she wanted either. And that was eating her up, but she just felt locked into, she was so committed to her legacy, and she was just afraid to make any change that she wouldn't be able to leave the legacy she wanted. And so she was like, I'm just going to wait. And so I really challenged her thinking around that, to start to look at how she could leave a legacy and start to carve some time. Because the truth is that if you don't know how to carve time in your life for what matters today, you're likely not going to know how to do it in that someday land when you retire or when the kids are older. And I've seen this over and over and over again. And so it's so important to start building that muscle now, so that when you do get to retirement or to that more time and space, that you can actually do it then. And so for her, as we dug into some of her time robbers, she had this like responsibility gene from the time she was really young, where she just took responsibility for everything. So we found so many places where she was taking responsibility for things that she didn't need to. And we were able to help her see that she could actually raise the quality of her leading and start to give herself more time. And as she empowered her team and built her successors, her leadership and her legacy expanded instead of got smaller, which was the mind was telling her, I can't change this because I'm going to lose something. And if I can give you one thing today, it's to really invite that idea of, what if I could do this and this? And if you just sit in that question, you're going to start to see new ideas and opportunities show up in your thinking. So when we're not managing our time well, it's usually a lack of clarity, or it's a lack of commitment, or both. And so I'm going to tell you a little story, and then I'm going to give you an invitation to start to think about, what do you want to commit to? And where do you want to start making more deposits around your time? So as part of the new year, one of the things that I set out to do was to have more play in my life. And I will tell you, Trisha's on this call. She actually inspired some of this, but that idea of play, like I couldn't even say that word. And that little tyrant on my shoulder that like tells me to work all the time, she was so uncomfortable with this idea of play. And one of the things I took on was taking this visual journaling class this year. And we do a lot of drawing and coloring. And the first couple like the little girl in me was so excited to do this. And the tyrant in me was like, the first couple sessions, was like, this is a complete waste of time. What are you doing? You can't color for an hour. You have things to do. This is ridiculous. And so I'm like a month in, and it's making a little bit of space in my life to play and color, which sounds so ridiculous, but so good, is having such a positive impact all over my business and my life. And I'm actually having one of the most profitable months in my business since like early 2019. And it's just proving to my brain that like play and work can coexist, and that play and work actually go together really, really well. And it's counterintuitive to everything that I once thought. And so I just wanted to share that with you in case you have trouble with play in your life too. So I'm going to have you think about, where do you want to make more investments around your time, and write those down. And you can pop them in the chat too. I'd love to hear them. And I think your ideas will inspire each other.
Rosalind in the last comment said, when I get frustrated by having to take care of my child first instead of working on my business, I remind myself that I choose to be an entrepreneur because of him. I tell myself the business can wait. I totally relate to that. I know a lot of my clients have heard me say this, but I purposely, when my daughter comes in, from her, 5 or 6 breaks in school, will, like turn around and look at her and take the time to talk to her, or have a dance party in the living room, because, then you can feel more productive after that.
Totally. And sometimes it's like, in your mind, at least for me, it could feel like I needed large chunks of time to do things that really matter. But like what you just described is, maybe that was like a couple minutes of really quality time. And then you feel like, you're being a good mom, and you can get back to your work and balancing all of that. Yeah, so good. Anything else?
Yeah, somebody said, my health and wellness is most important time that I invest in.
Love that.
And setting good habits and stick to them, being more disciplined.
What's yours, Kelly?
I don't know. I'm pretty good at time management. That's kind of one of my superpowers.
Nice.
But like somebody said, the COVID has definitely taught me to slow down and have those breaks with the kids, for sure.
Yeah.
Somebody said, don't compromise on the things that feed you. And commitment to being more purposeful and mindful about how I spend my time.
Love that. I think for to that, not making time for the things that fuel you and not compromising those. For a long time, it would be hard for me to step away from work. And I had to really train my brain to remember that when I did that, it was all giving back. When I take time away from my kids when they were little, I would come back as a better mom. Or when I take time away from my business, it fuels more creative ideas. And I think I had to really retrain that programming, and that little workaholic on my shoulder.
Netta says, I'd like to be more aware of time and understand why I spend the amount of time on each task. Somebody else says, saying no, or giving myself permission to flip the switch.
Love that. Well, and if you think about this idea of changing your relationship, like I'm looking at the image on the screen of holding time, a lot of times we have this sort of troubled relationship with time, or we are frustrated with time, or we feel like we don't have enough and there's a lack. And I look at her hands really holding time. And if you really start to look at how, if you look at that, you really do have a relationship with time, and start to look at the quality of that. And if you start to just improve that and nurture that, I have found that time works with me now, and that I start to affirm that I always have time for the things that matter the most. And you start to just really shift the quality of the way you think and speak about that relationship, it will give back to you. And I see that over and over and over again. All right, so action plan, just to kind of recap, you know, I invite you to invent a new story about time and really start to shift your thinking and dialogue around it. Eliminate those sneaky time robbers and look for the ones that are the blind spots, because they're likely taking the most of your energy and time. Let your commitments be your compass for how you spend your time. Consistent, aligned actions, and then it's a practice. It's not a perfect. And then just a couple things for you. So in the spirit of that visual journaling class, I had fun. I put some notes and reminders together for you in this download, and you can get that on my newly launched website. Thank you, Heather. Heather, we soft launched my new website today. So that's on there at carlareeves.com/time. So you can grab that. And then I just launched a podcast and would love to have you come take a listen. And then I'm going to turn it back over to Kelly for some networking.
Well, we have to do questions because we have plenty of time.
Okay, good.
I have one in the Rosalind says, my difficulty is procrastinating. Any tips on procrastination?
Yeah, so procrastination is, it's one that shows up all the time. And so what I would invite you to do is look to, and this is I use journaling a lot myself and in my work with people. And so I would invite you to get a journal out and just do some writing around that. But procrastination can be something that actually shows up to protect us in some way. Or it can show up as something that sort of self-sabotages us. So like things that I see around procrastination is sometimes it can keep us from the success we want, but there might be an underlying fear around that. But I would just use your journal to ask, like, does this protect me in any way? And get really curious about it, because as humans, we do things for a reason. And so I always ask my clients, like, why does it make perfect sense that you procrastinate? And so I'm going to leave that question with you, but I would just do some kind of inner searching around that, because there's a reason you do it. And here's what I know about everybody here is that if you guys are interested in time, you're probably really productive people and you know how to get shit done. And I see this with my clients all the time, like in certain areas of their life, they know how to get stuff done. And I'm certain that you do too. And so this procrastination is like some sort of barrier. And so you want to just dig a little bit deeper to find out what it actually is.
Carla, one thing that I've really enjoyed hearing from you was when you talked about managing your energy versus your time. I don't know if you could just touch on that briefly.
Yeah, I love that idea, because a lot of times we're so programmed, I think, by our culture to manage our time. And so I feel like this whole other door that you can actually go into that has an influence over your time is your energy. And so I like to work with my energy and that could help with procrastination too, because procrastination could be a part of you that's like rebelling because you don't have any downtime. But if you start to pay attention to your energy and then allocating your tasks and things that you need to do according to your energy, I think you'll find you can move through things faster. You can get more done in less time. And the other thing is if you start to take really good care of your energy, like taking breaks and eating well or starting your day with exercise, you're going to find that your energy takes you farther too. Was there anything else, Heather, that you remember that I didn't say?
No, I think that that's it. I mean, it just, I find that certain times of day is when I do work better. And so I try to save like the tasks that I really want to move forward for that time. And I thought that was a tip you gave me that I really have used.
It's super helpful. And like, yeah, there's that slump at the end of the day, like 2 or 3 o'clock for me, that I don't do deep thinking work. I have to do kind of smaller tasks that don't require a lot of brain power. So if you can start to allocate things that way, that helps a ton.
Lisa says, I try to take ahead and take a real break to allow the procrastination to feel productive instead of wasteful.
I love that. So it's like leaning, what I hear in that, Lisa, is like you're leaning into the procrastination. And instead of trying to like resist your way through it and force yourself to do stuff. I love that.
Feel free to unmute yourself if you want to just ask instead of type in the chat if you have a question also for Carla.
I do have a question. What I have found is I am a giver. And so for years, I've given to people's dreams, their businesses, operations, my thing. I never gave time for myself. So recently, I began to eliminate all that. And I have a wonderful job that permits me a ton of time to start working on myself. But what's interesting, Carla, is as organized as I am, I'm finding I'm having a hard time organizing all the time I have, almost like it's rebelling. It's so strange.
So I want to make sure I'm clear. You're saying that you're sort of rebelling against this time? Say a little bit more. I want to make sure I understand your question.
I guess it's just interesting because I have so much that I have wanted to do for myself and writing and training programs and different things. And now that I have that time, I did get a puppy. It's interesting because I find that I find other things to give my time away to that are smaller and less bigger. It's almost like it's a habitual thing.
So you're saying that like the giving, even though you made all those changes, it's still there. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, so for me, in that survival model that I talked about, I used to do the same thing, like being super nice to everybody else and giving and pleasing and giving my time and all of that. And so what keeps you linked to that is this, it gives you value. It gives you your, for me, that gave me my value and self-worth for a really long time. And so it's really starting to challenge where and how you're getting your value. And for me, it almost felt like an addiction. It's like I'd have to get the next fix. I'd have to get that like affirmation from other people. And when I got that, I felt pretty good. But the moment it went away, it would just kick in this cycle to give more and please more and help and like all of that. And it was this never ending cycle. And to make a true change, and this isn't about not helping people and it's not about not being generous, because like that's in your nature and it was in my nature too. But in that survival model, it was kind of driven by this need I had that I was trying to fill instead of just like a pure generosity and love. And so when you can start to take responsibility for filling that in different ways, because when you're getting it filled from the outer world, it never gets really full. It doesn't stay full. And so you have to start to look at other ways of filling that. And, I tell my clients, like, when you can find what you need that you're looking for in the outer world and start to give it to yourself, because it's usually like a young part of you. And if you can start like giving her bucketfuls of what you're looking for from others, then you're going to be able to give the way you love to give, like from a really full tank, and it's going to feel so much better. Is that
I love
helpful?
that. Oh, I love that. Here's another one. How about a big change that you're gonna make, and how do you manage a new routine if you're used to having no time and then you change, to give yourself more time? How do you manage that, a new routine like that?
Yeah, so I like to think in like small changes and small shifts. I mean, sometimes and I don't know if this person who asked that has an experience of like this huge shift of, no free time and a lot of free time. But if you're just thinking about making it, it doesn't have to happen in like one huge swooping change. That you can start to do it in the little tiny moments of your life. One of the things that I do is I start my day with a morning routine, and I get up earlier than I have to start my day so that I have a little bit of quiet space to think about, what's the most important thing for today, and how do I want to create my day instead of my day creating me, which is what I did for a lot of years. So just taking a little intentional planning time can make a huge, huge difference. I'm not sure if that answered the question or if the question was different, but
Yeah, no, that's nice. It's nice to start with little shifts and then make the bigger shifts as you go, for
Can
sure.
I interject to that a little?
Yeah.
I'll keep it short.
Hi.
But hi. So I'm going to be a little vulnerable here, but I was spending so much time on online dating. Oh my gosh, time sink. And then so this past year I really shifted and realized I was getting nowhere. I know some people have luck. Yeah, whatever. But I'm kind of old school. And then I started shifting to, well, do I really need a guy? And then, like Carla was just saying, I started kind of being comfortable in my singleness and seeing all that time and what do I really want to do with my time. And I started kind of, like I posted, saying no to things and just shifting how I think. And same as what Carla said, is I started a new routine and some new habits, and I'm sticking to them in that, I do a devotional and then I do my exercise, and then so there's certain things in the morning when the kids are comatose, they can't interrupt, that you can really get done for yourself. And so it's just prioritizing and kind of shifting. But I did it in little steps, like she said, over time. It wasn't like, I'm going to quit everything and just, so, because I know there's band moms and there's Girl Scouts and there's running your own business, and there's so many things. Some people are in school. Some people go to school when they get off work, I mean, so it's just kind of doing those little steps. It's really helped. But
I love that, Christine.
And eliminate the garbage.
Yeah. And the when you start to just change like the little moments or how you do the first 10 minutes of your day, if you just start with that, it will start to ripple. Like you'll build a little bit of muscle and then you can shift something else. And those little changes over time are what ripple to the really big changes we want. And I think where we set ourselves up for failure is we like take on, we're going to change everything, and then we fail, and then we're frustrated and resigned and we stop trying. And so little small shifts are where it's at.
One other question: how do you hold yourself accountable?
So for me, that can look a number of different ways. Like a lot of times in my life, I have a coach or somebody that helps keep me accountable. So like an accountability partner of some kind is great. I also I write my plan kind of for the year, like my bigger overarching kind of intentions for the year. And I keep those in front of me regularly. And that's how I plan my month and how I plan my weeks and how I plan my day. So I'm always checking back to say, like, am I in alignment with what I set out to create this year? So those commitments are truly a compass for me, because overnight, sometimes I wake up and I forget, like, who am I and what am I up to and what's important? And for me, I have to remind myself regularly of those bigger that bigger mission that I'm up to in my life in the different areas, and just checking back is a huge, huge piece.
I love that. Well, we are at 4:53. So for the next 5 minutes, I'm going to put everybody in a breakout room, and we'd love to have a takeaway. If you can share with the group a takeaway from Carla's talk. I know I have so many in my brain. And then tell people, your business, and do a little networking. We're going to be in those rooms for about 5 minutes. So feel free to unmute yourselves and network with each other, and then we'll come back for one last thing. So I'm gonna do that now. There we go. See you back in a minute.